Welcome, my name is Peter Strong. I'm a professional psychotherapist based in Colorado, and I offer online psychotherapy via Skype for treating anxiety and depression using the techniques of mindfulness therapy rather than using drugs and prescription medications, which really are not effective at changing the underlying psychological process that causes your anxiety or depression. And that is the focus of mindfulness therapy. It's to help you see how your anxiety and depression works. It's seeing how the processes work at the psychological level that creates your emotional suffering. So, of course, a big factor in that process is the constellation of reactive thoughts, rumination, and reactivity that feed the anxiety and depression. Now, it's important to understand from the point of view of mindfulness therapy that we do not consider that thoughts are the cause of our emotional suffering, but they feed that suffering when we become blindly attached to those thoughts. So when we blindly accept the thoughts, we tend to become controlled by those thoughts, and then they proliferate and they feed the underlying emotion. So this is the process known as reactive identification, and that's the real issue, more than the thoughts themselves. It's the blind identification with those thoughts and emotions and beliefs as well that causes the problem. So the way we break out of this cycle of reactive thinking that feeds our anxiety and depression is by the process of mindfulness meditation. Now, this is defined in mindfulness psychology, as I teach it, as the process of meditating on the mind. So here we meditate on those very thoughts and the emotions underneath the thoughts that are fueling those thoughts in order to break the habitual nature of those reactions. We have to bring consciousness to the habitual reactions in order to break the automatic unconscious aspect, which is what is required for any habit to operate. So when we illuminate our thoughts with conscious awareness, with mindfulness, then we can begin to change our relationship with them so that they are reduced to being objects in the mind rather than being our identity, something we identify with. Seeing them as objects in the mind is absolutely fundamental for psychological healing. The other aspect of this process of turning them into objects is that you become the observer. That's what we define as the true self, the observing consciousness that witnesses those thoughts and other objects that arise in the mind, but is not identified with them. So in this process you begin to grow into your true self, which is not defined by the contents of your mind. And this is extremely important too, because most emotional suffering is caused by this blind identification with thoughts, and in that process we cannot change the thoughts. It's only when you develop that objective consciousness around the thoughts that they're able to change and heal. So we learn to meditate on our mind. This is central. This is what the Buddha taught, and this is what I find to be effective. And the mindfulness therapy simply takes these principles and develops them further. I teach mindfulness therapy over Skype. It's perfectly adequate. You do not need to meet a therapist in person to learn how to work with your emotions. You need good techniques, and those can be taught via Skype just as well as in person. So if you'd like to learn more about learning how to apply mindfulness to work with your anxiety or depression or other forms of emotional suffering, then do please contact me and let's schedule a Skype therapy session at a time that works. I see people throughout North America and Western Europe and as far away as Australia. So if you'd like to schedule a session with me, simply go to my contact page on my website and then send me an email and tell me more about yourself and how I can help you. Thank you.